Hi, this is Joe Schmid here, and I'm a professional musician with over 25 years of recording and songwriting experience. I currently play in Southern California with the Orange Embers, so you can see me here and there. I'm here today to interview Buck Dharma from Blue Öyster Cult, and we had a great time. And what you'll see is we are going to dive into some of their songwriting processes and even learn that they started out as a surf rock band. So it starts right now. Stay tuned. Hello, this is Joe Schmid. I would like to welcome you to a special deep dive with Buck Dharma from Blue Öyster Cult for Sidewalks. Hey, Buck.
Joe, how you doing?
Pleasure. Oh, great, great. It's a pleasure meeting
Good.
with you today.
Yeah, it's good seeing you in Reno too.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
Great.
looking forward to digging in a bit with your songwriting process and gear a bit today. Basically, a continuation of our conversation that we had in Reno.
hmm
So, on the previous segment with Cindy, it was great to hear your musical journey from accordion to drums to guitar. And I was
Yeah.
curious, were any bands key to these transitions?
Any bands? At the time I became a guitar player, surf music was caught our interest. My interest. The Ventures. The Ventures are very important to a lot of guitar players, especially of my era, and I had the good fortune to play with two of the original members of the Ventures at the NAMM show in Anaheim. NAMM is the National Association of Music Merchants, and they have a trade show in January in Anaheim. And there was a jam in the evening there that I was privileged to get up and actually play some guitar with Noki Edwards and Don Wilson, which were the surviving members of the original Ventures. And Ventures, who are known for Walk Don't Run, among others, and they were, for whatever reason, they were just huge in Japan, and they were like gods in Japan. In America, they were, you know, there was a time where guitar instrumentals would be hits. Dick Dale in California, and Link Ray and a few other people like that would have Dwayne Eddy, would have a hit record with just guitar music with no lyric. And personally, it was took years before I even started listening to the words of songs. It wasn't really till I got the Blue Oyster Cult that I really appreciated the importance of lyric, in a song. So I came out of the surf era and the surf music, and then into blues. And blues lyrics are typically pretty much regulated to how miserable you are. But I love that music too. So got to appreciate words later on.
I'm actually very similar with that regard. I listen to the guitar first, and then lyrics are kind of an afterthought. So,
Yeah, the groove and the guitar parts are what always caught my ear at first. Yeah.
yes. And then last time we met, I was very surprised to hear that Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead has been an inspiration to you. Uh, I'm
Yeah, the
curious.
way that Jerry improvised was I just took right to that, and I didn't quite imitate him, but I figured if Jerry could do that, then Buck could do that. He could improvise in that just top of your head kind of way, and just whatever came to his brain, he would just play, and that's what I've always tried to do.
And then I'm curious who else has shaped your guitar playing in a way that Jerry Garcia and the Ventures may have.
Certainly, it was Chuck Berry to begin with, and then Carl Wilson as filtered through whatever session guys played on those Beach Boys records, and which took off from the surf stuff. But Beach Boys were surf with vocals, and the way that they basically had adapted the Chuck Berry style pop music, into their early stuff, was big influence. And then, of course, all the early British blues guitar players who were playing their versions of American blues, which I went back and discovered American blues because they didn't get played on pop radio, at the time. So that was all the English guys that you could mention. They all were big influences. And then the psychedelic guitar players, all the stuff that was coming out of San Francisco, and then the Doors out of LA. Robbie Krieger's a big influence on me.
And speaking of Robbie Krieger from The Doors and
Yeah.
Garcia, of course, from Grateful Dead, they both played Gibson SGs. And would
Yes.
you say
So did
that
Carlos Santana at the time also. Yeah.
yes. And
Mhm.
would you say that they inspired you to use Gibson SGs at the,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a natural, and it's funny, the SG has got a really long neck. I mean, when I play it, I like to bang it into the mic stand sometimes.
And in looking at BOC photos, I see red, white, and natural finishes on those SGs. And I
Mhm.
was curious which one of them was your main SG.
The 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 white SG that you see in the old pictures and videos was actually started out as a red one, and I had it repainted, just because I wanted to tinker with it. And so I've had both of them, and the original white one got lost on the road somewhere. But the Gibson Custom Shop made me another one, which I don't take out on the road. It's hanging up actually.
And I read about that, and I thought that was really cool of Gibson to do that for you. And I was curious, what was the process like for them creating that guitar for you?
A fellow that I've become friends with as a fan worked for Gibson, and he was instrumental in getting that done for me. And I specified a little thicker neck than the stock guitars, and he made that. And that guitar has a neck like a ball bat now. So
Excellent. So a little bit
yeah.
closer to a 58 Les Paul, probably.
I would compare it directly because I'm not. I never had a 58 Les Paul, so I
Ah,
don't know. I have a 72 Deluxe, which is behind me. You can see it over my shoulder,
yes.
and that's the Les Paul that you see on the record jackets.
Excellent. And
Mm.
then how did you wind up with your Steinberger cheeseburger that is primarily used on stage nowadays?
I first came across Steinbergers. I saw some people playing the original ones that's all made out of the carbon dope plastic or whatever material it's made out of. And at a NAMM show in about 85, I saw the first bolt-on neck wooden body one. And I I bought the first one, which actually had a little sort of like mini flying V wood body, and then I got into a relationship with Ned Steinberger, the man behind the guitar, and he was an industrial designer by trade and got into making musical instruments, and thereafter was an endorsee of the company, and I got a bunch of the wood body Steinbergers, which I still play. The My main guitar now for like 3 decades now is the Cheeseburger, which I call it. And the after Gibson had bought Steinberger, they moved the factory from Newburgh to Nashville, and they one of the last ones they made before they shut the factory, because Gibson at that time would buy brands and basically run them into the ground. So they did that with Steinberger, but they made the cheeseburger, and I had them just scallop, sort of Swiss cheese holes in the body, because I wanted to make a little joke about the Steinberger cheeseburger. So
Mhm. Oh, that's really cool. And
yeah.
then seeing you live in Reno last, I noticed you had Marshall amps on stage, and I was curious, have they always been your go-to for live shows?
When we do fly out dates where we don't carry our own drums or amplifiers, they're provided by the hire companies. It's like a bread and butter staple kind of a thing to have Marshall amps. So we use those. Richie and Eric use Mesa Boogies, and Danny Miranda usually use Ampeg SVT or Fender. He's got either of those he uses.
And then what amps would you use for shows where you carry your own gear?
We have we the back line is right now I'm using a Fender I think it's a Pro amp as my stage monitor fill. Yeah. Most of my sound that comes out of the PA system now is it's it's a Strymon Iridium, and then it goes into a 2 notes torpedo cab M cabinet, speaker cabinet and microphone emulator. So it's the sound that you hear coming out of the PA is actually from that, and then that sound goes into my stage fill, which is not even mic'd. It's just to make some noise on the stage. So basically getting what the Strymon Iridium sounds like.
I was wondering about that because it sounded like
Yeah.
you were really dialed in live. It produced the
Yeah.
studio recording very well.
I would say that, the virtue of that, doing it that way, is that you get the same sound, whether it's indoors or outdoors, whatever, if you get a bum amp, sometimes, it'll change. And it's the consistency for the front of house mixers, Steve Lacera. It's just, it makes things a lot easier for him, that he can rely on the tone, that it's going to be the same every night, no matter what the external circumstances are.
And then how long ago was the Strymon introduced to your live rig?
About 3 years now, I guess it's been out. And I previous to that, I've used well, actually I used to use the JCM 900s, and they would be different every night because we wouldn't carry them. They weren't ours. Some are great, some aren't. Some are in good shape, some are clapped out. And I don't mind that so much. It makes me play differently, with a different amplifier. And but doing it this way, it's just it's a lot more convenient. Also, we could carry it. It flies with us. We carry our own guitars, and Jules Rodino, our drummer, carries a snare drum and cymbals. He carries his own cymbals, and so we know we can show up basically anywhere where there's an airport, and basically carry our sound with us.
And then over the years, I would have to say that BOC is one of my favorite three guitar bands. And I'm curious how you, Eric, and Alan previously, and now Richie, how you
Mhm.
decide to split the parts up.
Um, Basically to recreate the studio recordings is how we do it. It's whatever bases we're good at, we can do that. Like I play a lot of the rhythm stuff on my songs, and just because that I play like I played it on the record, so it's not. And now that Richie's such a great lead guitar, I let him take some leads, and he certainly can rip it up. And it's great to have that kind of talent in the band where you got multiple really good players.
Yes, that was definitely a treat seeing both of you solo last time.
Yeah, and the crowd really digs it too when we really dig into it, and we have
Yes.
a good time, because we do a lot of improvisation. We don't play things exactly the same every night. There's quite a bit of variation within the confines of the arrangement.
And then in a previous conversation, you told me that MC5 was an influence. And
Yeah, well, we do a cover of "Kick Out the Jams" on the Ghost Stories record, and that was we had recorded it live, but this is sort of a studio version of "Kick Out the Jams," where we did it in the pre-production there. So I'm glad that exists, and glad it came out and goes on the record, because the MC5 were a big move at the time. They were never hugely popular, but they were definitely influential to the entire pro music scene.
I can definitely hear the edginess of their influence in BOC songs. And I'm curious, if you were to listen back on BOC recordings, what other bands do you hear inspiring those tracks?
Cheapers. I don't know. Do you hear anything? I don't know.
I do.
Yeah. To me, like BOC is instantly recognizable as BOC, and I don't really know if we sound like anybody else.
I would say I hear the Birds quite a bit.
Definitely an influence, yes. Songwriting, singing. Yep. Okay. You got me. The Birds.
Well, I don't want to pick at them too much, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. After speaking with you last time, just going back and listening to some of those recordings
Yeah.
from the 70s and early 80s and
Yeah.
hearing that and going, oh wow, yeah, like I can hear Bucks, what you were listening to uh
Yeah.
at that point in time. And
Yeah, we were just coming up. We were just soaking every artist that came out. Sandy Perlman, our manager and mentor, was writing album reviews for Crawdaddy magazine. So he would get all the LPs from the record companies in New York, and so we'd have access to just about every act that was happening or about to happen. So we had a good grounding in what was going down in the late 60s and the early 70s.
then over time, it looks like BOC has gone through multiple approaches to songwriting, from you writing uh, solo, basically as a contribution, to collaborative writing, to even having Patty Smythe involved. And I was curious, how would you say your approach to songwriting has changed over time?
When we started, the only way we could evaluate how we were doing would be to just use a, uh, a mono or stereo tape recorder in a room, reel to reel, and play it back and listen to it. And it was we you really didn't do it at home. We would practice in a room in our we had band houses in those days where we'd all live and work, and that's the way we did it. Everything was forged basically in real time by everybody at once. A writer would come in with he'd sit down with either a keyboard or a guitar and sketch out the song, but the arrangement was very organic. Once we got multi-track recorders, which was around the Agents of Fortune period, everybody could afford to have a TAC 4-track recorder, which is really changed the way we all did things. So we would then bring in songs with a lot more fleshed out arrangement before the band ever heard it. So that obviously changed the way that the music was structured and recorded. So, and that started with the Age of Fortune record. So Reaper was the first song that I wrote on the 4-track recorder. So, for instance.
And that actually leads to my next question. I know the cowbell
Mm,
now draws a lot of attention for Don't Fear the Reaper, but
right.
I have always been blown away with that solo section. It
Mm.
just kind of appears out of nowhere. And I was curious, did anything, does anything jump out at you with sparking the creative impetus for that portion of the song?
Well, what I was trying to do there was musically portray the event where the spirit from the next realm comes back and retrieves his girlfriend, and that they go off to wherever that other place is, and they're still existing. They're not dust, they're not gone. That's what the Reaper is about. It sort of posits that there is an afterlife, and that it's going to be all right. So the middle instrumental section just is me trying to uh, evoke the energy of that that communication, that bridge between the realms.
That is fascinating. You could definitely feel it
Yeah.
when listening to the song.
Yeah.
And then for my final question, this is kind of just for fun, but I see many possible sources of who played the cowbell overdub on Don't Fear the Reaper.
Yeah,
And would
right.
you be able to help solve that mystery today?
I was not there when the cowbell was recorded at this, so I cannot testify personally. I know David Lucas, who was the co-producer of Agents of Fortune. It was his idea to put the cowbell in there. You know, he just thought it would be nice to have a nice quarter note, pulse, but it was not very loud. Songs like Mississippi Queen and Time Has Come Today, you can hear the cowbell, but
Yes.
so, the whole idea of Christopher Walken saying, we needed more cowbell, and Will Ferrell's idea of making like a comical sketch out of the concept, that's just singularly good.
All
So, Albert says he played it. David Lucas said he played it. So I don't know who played it.
right. Okay. Well, I
Mm.
want to thank you for your time today. It's been just a joy to sit down and talk with you for a bit and learn a bit more about, um, the tones and songwriting processes of Blue Öyster Cult. It's really cool to listen to the material that you've put together.
Well, thanks, Joe. One more thing about my rig is that after the amp and the speaker, the sound goes into a Elisa's quadverb where I get all my echoes and choruses and stuff. So that actually happens after the speaker cabinet and the microphone. So I get these studio type effects that I control with a expression pedal on my in front of the mic position there, and that's how I do that. So that's a big part of my tone live too.
Wow, it was such a treat to be able to interview Buck Dharma today, and I was blown away by learning how they started out as a surf rock band, and it was really cool to hear about the band's transformations along with technology. So I hope you enjoyed it half as much as I did.